This is the Nerdy Epistles, a nerdy conversational podcast by nerdy conversational Catholics. Welcome to part 2 on our talk about The Last of Us, the video game. If you haven't listened to episode 4, we encourage you to stop now and tune in. Don't worry, we'll be here when you get back. And for those of you who are pressing on, feel free to grab your favorite drink of something and meet us at the fireplace with the Tipsy Bison. Hey you guys, Sister Venus here. I wanted to just let you guys know before you get in deep to this episode series that this episode does have spoilers for The Last of Us Parts 1 and 2, the video game. So if you're an anti-spoiler person, feel free to, choose one of our other episodes that's in our listings below. Also, this episode does have adult themes in regards to violence, war, trauma, suicide, and abuse. So we want to also just make sure that if you are sensitive to any of these topics, that you get a chance to turn this off and to listen to one of our other episodes. We don't we try to keep it very family friendly on the channel, but sometimes it's good to have these more serious adult talks. So we thank you guys for being a part of our community, and you remember that, spoilers are going to happen and listener discretion is advised. Until next time, peace be with you.
So here comes a new section that we're creating here, and it's called "Is it justifiable?" And for the context of the questions, we are utilizing church teachings and beliefs as of now, applied to the game. So first of all, is street justice ever really justified morally? Street justice, for the argument, and in case people don't know, is you take justice into your own hands. Now, mind you, we're taking justice into our own hands in a world that is lawless versus us here where there is laws protecting the innocent, versus in Ellie and Joel's world where there isn't any of that. So that being said, do you think that street justice, as I'm jokingly calling it, is it justified morally?
In terms of The Last of Us, again, it's that's just
because what if you end up seeing someone getting mugged and you don't know if that which was actually the right or wrong party at that point, because you just think everyone's terrible at this point and stuff like that. Everyone's evil. I don't know. Also, there's also like, when it comes to street justice, right? I feel like a lot of that would come from vengeance, right? A lot of those feelings would come from vengeance, therefore unjustifiable, right? But if you actually see people as a potential threat that you have to kill, it's a rough call.
Yeah, that's right.
Because you can't pass judgment on that because there's no system for it, right? So yeah, I would say there's a fine line to where you could go Batmaning and not, but. If someone does you dirty, I'm going for it. That's just it. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I would go for it. Street justice. For me.
You're clarify for myself.
Yeah.
I know. I'm half and half again when it comes to street justice, especially when playing Last of Us Part 2. It was just on the one hand, street justice, everyone dies. I mean this because I was just as mad as Ellie for about the whole while she was in Seattle, I was just as mad as Ellie. I was like, nope, everyone dies. Cut them down. Machetes, trip mines, go. Molotovs, whatever.
I can skip a fight in this area. Nope, everyone's dying.
No. Everyone's going down. Everyone. Taking my full vengeance on everybody. But by the time I'm done with Abby and we come back around, I'm like, oh, I don't know if I'm really about this anymore. I don't know if this vengeance, I don't know if street justice is right at this point. when it comes to the Rattlers, aka the peeps before the peeps we had to fight in Santa Barbara, I'm like, it's not necessarily street justice. It's more like just justice, because here you are enslaving people. Yep. You're torturing people. You use, like, you have you have infected as as playthings. No, I'm sorry, fam. That's a different discussion.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that whole sequence where, like, the very beginning, like, okay, I'm killing these people. What for? And then the moment they showed, like, oh, they're slave owners. Okay, no, yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Bang bang.
Oh, you have the zombies as the playthings. Oh, let me shoot their chains. See what happens.
I can let justice happen for me.
Yeah,
Here you go.
Just chill back now. I'll just hide in the corner. See what happens.
That's my favorite part. I did that every time. I'd be like, bloop, bloop, go ahead. And then just sit back and wait till they were all done screaming. And I'm like, all right, now I need to go in and clean up. That's it. But that's also a moment of, technically that's a form of street justice. We just chose, in this case, was that justifiable? And to us, the answer was yes. Was what the WLF did to the Seraphites also street justice? Was also, excuse me, let me start over. What the WLF did to, or how their headspace was, it was street justice to them, to the Seraphites, to do what they did to the Seraphites. At what point do we stop and say, hold up, where does street justice end? Feel me?
That's the thing, but you put it that way. I don't think the WLF thought that was street justice, because I think they believe they're the law. They are the law. So what they were doing is totally justifiable, because the Seraphites were killing people, were taking down their own. So and we're the authority here because we're the ones who took over Seattle. So we are the law. So I think to them, this is not street justice. This is something that needed to be done.
Just justice. In essence.
Yeah, just justice. Yeah.
Okay. What did you think, JP1? JP2.
I don't know with the with the WLF. For what was the for first occupants there that were taking power in Seattle, of course, the things that they were doing to the innocent people were horrible, and their intentions for fighting against that were correct. But when you try to keep the power to yourself, they ended up in a little power struggle between, within their own group, right? Which is pretty crazy, because once you accomplish one really big goal and have all this influence on a whole town, it's like, oh, what do you do next, right? What else left is there to do, right? Which is kind of crazy. So, I mean, you live long enough as a hero to see yourself become the villain. At that point, which kind of sucks. So, I mean, that's just the way I saw it. I saw the WLF, and again, going back to the Petrie that they tried making with the Seraphites, but then that ended up not they obviously had the intentions of trying to make a better world, right? But then internally it just wasn't happening, and in a world where there's nothing but chaos, peace is extremely hard to find. So yeah, I mean, they try to be neutral, but then when push comes to shove, they had to look out for their own, which is the case, which is literally what happened here, especially when Ellie came back at all of them. And Tommy too. Oh my God, Tommy tore everyone up.
Yo, that was so much fire
by
at the same
himself.
time.
Yeah, when you learn that everything that was going on is because of Tommy.
Yeah, and
Tommy
then,
sniping everybody. It's like, oh my.
Yeah, and then Ellie is just there to pick up she was there to pick up the sloppy seconds. I was just like, oh my goodness. It was, whatever Tommy did on his own, oh my goodness, was obviously like, how do you do that?
Right? Like, and like, but that also brings up a really great point though too, because like we were talking about Tommy, like, and him and Joel, you know, for a long time they rolled together and they were
Right.
like massive, like scalp hunters basically, in so many
Right.
words. So killing was their jam, and
Right.
I'm like, oh man. So when I'm seeing like during that like whole section where Abby has to like run around because he's sniping, I'm like, I don't like how accurate Tommy is right now. I do not appreciate this.
we learned how
No.
we learned how like crazy Tommy can be, and it's just like whoa.
Oh.
Yeah.
He was just a side character in the first game. Now we know
Yeah.
like, oh, this guy is as vicious as Joel. Like he
Yeah.
can go like to what Joel went through. Like he can go beyond
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
what was crazier was that in the flashback with Tommy, when you were learning how to snipe, was when they introduced bullet drop from like over 300 meters away, and he was hitting it. I was just
Damn.
like, yo, Tommy's too good. Right?
That scope too. Can we talk about that scope? Yo, I wanted
Oh
that
my
scope in this game. I'm like, yo, I
goodness.
want Tommy's scope in this game. Like
Yeah.
miscellaneous,
Oh,
no.
Yeah.
I need that. Like even with the mod, like for the game, you're like, this scope sucks. I want Tommy's scope. Can I get Tommy's scope? Let's go. Come on.
Oh my goodness.
DLC.
Yeah,
DLC
Yeah.
Tommy's scope. Yes.
it was
Yes, please.
wild.
Here's another question.
Wait, one more thing
Okay.
before we move on.
Okay.
Okay. So, you know how Abby's group in the WLF were trying to hunt down Joel, right?
Mhm.
And then you know how Tommy and Elliot were trying to hunt down the WLF in order to get to Abby, right? Does a double negative make a positive? I'm just saying.
Ooh, that's a good point, fam.
Does it cancel out?
I mean, I think they played both sides, honestly. Like, really, they
Right.
like Abby played the WLF to get to Joel, and then in the return, Abby just
Yeah.
retributes, blames the WLF for empowering her to do that, and so she just, in essence, punishes them for allowing her to be that
Mhm.
kind of force. And I kind of, for about 2.5 seconds, I feel kind of bad for the WLF because that's not what they came into either. They were like,
No.
whoa, we weren't trying to come into this madness, but
Yeah.
we have our own problems.
Who was more in the wrong?
Exactly.
Oh,
Exactly.
man.
Ooh, that's a question for another day. That's a question for later. That's a question for later down the road. But I want to make sure, like, okay, we kind of answered this a little bit, but I want to at least explore it really quick, a little deeper. Is genocide really ever morally justified, even in a post-apocalyptic society? Like, because let's be real, like, yeah, they tore, like, this WLF tore up the Seraphites, but there's still WLF people over there. We don't know if there's any more Seraphites. Like,
We know of one.
we know one. Yes,
We know one is alive.
Lev.
We know one is alive.
We know of Lev, and that is it.
Yeah.
But in essence, if we were just taking at face value from the story, the WLF literally committed genocide, and is that okay in a world that's already like hecka effed up?
Well, go ahead, JP.
I was letting you go.
All right. I mean, thing is that again, they wanted to pick a fight, right? But there are members within that society, community, right? I guess they are a society of crazies. But yeah, you could what should we call it? I guess what you can say is that like they wanted to pick a fight, and yes, it made sense to fight back, and kill everyone off from the source. But what you could do is that you could have forsaken those who were unredeemable, but also take whoever you can in and teach them a different way. I guess if they were trying to go the peaceful way, you could have taught peace to those that could have been, helped, right? But then again, the story sounds a little bit too familiar, right? Especially with the Spanish Conquistador era.
That,
You
ooh,
know,
not a
right?
highlight of our church history.
Not a highlight of our Filipino history either, but I mean, you know, it's just a little food for thought.
That's a good point. I like that. I like that.
Right. I'm not saying I'm not proud to be Catholic and Filipino. I'm just
We had
saying
moments.
That's what happened. That's what happened.
True. I'm with that. JP one.
Is genocide ever? I like it, there. There had to be good people in the Seraphites. They're just, and like Lev said in the game, like the prophet never talked about the prophet's teachings were always peaceful. It wasn't until the current elders, twisted her words. So it's just like it's safe to say there are people in the Seraphites who still believed in the original prophet, like what she was saying, not what the elders were saying. So like I don't think mass genocide should have been the solution. I don't think genocide period, like genocide shouldn't be any solution period, like that wiping out an entire population just because of something, like I don't think that's morally reasonable at all. I don't think there is a justifiable cause for an entire wipeout of an entire nation.
Right.
There is good. There is some type of good there. Like there is something there that we need to protect.
Yes. Like the Lord always says, even in evil, there is good, right?
Yes.
Like, and that's what we should be trying to focus and highlight on, not necessarily the bad. But I, at the same time, also see this headspace of like, where the WLF was, is like, we don't see good because if there are good people, they're not shooting at us right now. They're the ones they're not the ones holding the guns right now saying, hey, let's work it out. They're the ones gunning us down like afterthoughts. Like we're like infected, not that we're just human beings too, right? And I think sometimes that's where and again, this is the beauty of this game that I really love, is that they dehumanized humanity to the point where it's like, because people have dehumanized each other, and it's that moral just ambiguity of like, so at what point are you a human and at what point are you an enemy, right? Or at what point are you, like, how do we differentiate? And that's of course where I make the argument of like, okay, I get where war was necessary and justified, but genocide wasn't, because at some point you're being inhumane, right? To commit a genocide means you take all of any potential of good away. You wipe out any potential of good.
Right.
And is that necessary? No. Like, that's not justified at all. Like, but at the same time, I see like it was very hard when I heard Isaac say, he was like, yo, listen, we didn't try everything and they don't want to come to peace, right? But I can't help but wonder, did we try everything or did we just shoot first? Like Han Solo style. We and that's the problem. Like, because humanity is in such a chaotic state in The Last of Us, there is no deeper critical thinking, right? And that hurts, and the consequences of that are dire especially in part 2. So that's my take. All right, we move along. So here's a really great question that might spur conversations for years on end. Can we ever forgive Abby for what she did?
It's possible. I mean, we see it in our world when a person murders someone, but the family of the person that got murdered forgives the murderer. Like, it's hard. I think, like, I don't, if that ever happened to me, if I knew someone that was a friend or family of mine that got murdered, and would I be able to forgive him or her, the murderer? That's something like you have to figure out yourself. But I think
Abby sucks ass. I'm just kidding.
Yes,
ahead,
we
keep
know
going.
this.
Keep
We
going, keep
acknowledge
going,
this.
Keep going. Keep going. I thought you were done.
But what is it?
We're gonna have to edit this part.
It's also, I mean, we all agree at a certain point in time, Abby was the worst, because, I mean, come on, we loved, all the three of us, we love Joel.
Mhm.
We love the idea, we love Joel, like, but it's just like, at the end of it all, like, if, like, I think it's possible to forgive Abby. Like, and also, like, even like, forgive Abby, like, Abby herself, like, she had she had those dreams where, like, she would go back to the hospital and, like, the dad would be there, or, like, dead Joel's there, or the dead children are there, and it's just like, is she herself trying to forgive herself for the fact that she killed Joel? Like, in her mind, is she trying to forgive herself, like, redeem, like, that sort of deal?
That's a good point. JP2. Yes, we know Abby sucks.
Abby sucks. I hated Abby. Abby is a complete ass. I hated playing her. I didn't care about her or Lev. Everyone.
I love that.
I would have been
Lev.
cool with her dying. Oh my gosh, what a terrible, terrible character to introduce into this. Nah, I mean, like, whatchamacallit. I mean, I would forgive her though. At the end of the day, I would forgive her. I would just tell her she sucks ass. Like, every time I would see her though. Like, yo, remember that? I'd make her feel so sorry for her too. I'd be so petty. I'd be like, I would forgive her, but I'd be so petty about it. I'd be like, yo, remember that time you killed my father figure, the only father figure in my life? Yeah, you owe me still. Yeah, you're gonna buy lunch for me.
Forever.
Why? Because you killed Joel. Yo.
Because you killed.
But-
You can all
and
say
then-
the same thing.
And then,
Joel
and then Abby's gonna be like, "Well, Joel killed my dad." Well, you didn't. Did he kill your dad in front of you? No.
With a
I
golf
had
club?
to watch that. With a
Damn.
golf club?
With a golf club, not just like some gun, or he didn't shoot her. She didn't like
Did-
stab his
No,
ass. or
he
nothing.
Yeah,
did.
did-
Shotgun,
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay, right.
The
Shotgun to the
shotgun,
knee.
and then
Ooh.
But-
and then
Yeah.
9-iron.
Shotgun to the knee and a 9-iron, right? Did Joel practice his chipping on your dad? No, I don't think so.
No, he
No,
won.
no,
he hit him and quit him. That was it.
Yeah,
That was
and
it.
by
Not
the
the
way-
shotgun.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
stabbed
and by
him
the
with
way,
the knife.
you have terrible form. I don't know how you play golf. Get you, Abby.
I mean, technically, Ellie was there on both occasions.
She was asleep
True.
during the first.
She was
Yeah,
asleep.
but
Yeah,
she was
personally.
there.
Yeah,
True.
She was
But-
there.
but
Oh,
if you were
question.
asleep and your body was at a murder scene, did it happen? I'm just kidding.
I'm
Dang.
just curious.
What?
In that scene in the hospital with Joel, did you kill the other two people in there?
Oh hell yeah!
I
The
didn't.
the two nurses. Did you?
Yeah, I killed
Yeah.
the two nurses.
I flamethrowered them the first time around.
You what?
I just what? Y'all, dang! I just was like, I just took a pipe and just knocked him out, but
Right.
it was obviously
No,
enough.
I murdered all of them.
I did flamethrower.
Yeah.
Like, and then thinking about it now, like, after, like, seeing the flashback when Abby goes in and sees the dead dad, I was like, oh, if they, like, in my version, if they turn around, they'll see two burning corpses
Yeah.
along,
Yeah.
along with the dad.
What if they took your save file from the remake
Oh,
or from
That
the
would've been-
remastered?
And that's how it ended. That's how they picked
And
that
that's
scene
how,
out, man.
yeah, that's how Abby would remember it. Oh man,
oh, that'd have been fire
That
though.
would've
That
been
actually
so-
been really nice.
Literally.
Literally fire.
Literally for y'all. I just took a pipe and a gun. Okay, that's all I did. Pipe, gun, dip.
yeah,
Because bullets were
Um,
expensive back then too. Dang.
yeah.
I wasn't trying to like use no kind of bullets. I have to admit this and say this in realness. No, I can't forgive Abby for what she did.
Okay.
I just
That's fine.
can't. And I mean, I know a whole bunch of people can't either. But I think it's for me like now but see, here's the thing: if I don't forgive Abby, I can't forgive Ellie either, because because Ellie in essence did the exact same thing Abby was doing with just different people. And that's kind of where is it justified comes into a new argument. And that's a tie into question 4 is like, is Ellie justified in taking vengeance? Well, if we say yes, she was justified in taking vengeance, so is Abby. And that means I have to forgive Ellie just as much as I forgive Abby. And the problem is I can't really forgive either of them for what they did. Because that's not what either of their fathers would have wanted for them at all. That's not what they would have. I firmly believe that. I don't think Joel would have wanted Ellie to go after Abby. And I do not believe that Jerry, not Tony, sorry, my bad. Jerry would not have wanted Abby to go after Joel. But no one was there to show them that, right? And to tell them there's a better way. That true justice is in living on their behalfs and living life to the full on their behalfs, not taking vengeance and killing everybody in your warpath, right? So it's hard for me to forgive Abby because at the same time, then I have to be okay with what happened with Ellie. And the answer is no, I'm not okay with either of these stories. And that's a hard reconciliation piece. I think eventually with time, I will come to forgive. And I'm one of those slow forgiver types of people. When someone hurts me, it takes me a minute to kind of, let them back in, if at all. But at the same time, I look at it from the grander scheme of if I were in either of their positions, right, could I have been able to forgive what happened? And the answer is nah, son. I'm very Inigo Montoya. Kill my dad, prepare to die because it's going down, right? It's just going down. And then vice versa, right? You kill my dad. And again, this is where plot doesn't always fit story, right? The plot was, you kill my father, everyone's going down, right? But in the story, it goes, you kill my dad, but that's not what my dad would have wanted for me to go after you. But I'm going anyway because I need to go for me because I can't forgive myself for what happened. Because remember in the scene before Abby's dad gets got, right? She's like, yo, if it were me, I'd say, yeah, go ahead, do it. Mm-hmm. Right? Yeah. Go ahead, kill me. Yeah. Kill me and do it. But that's Abby's consent, right? We didn't know at the time that was also going to eventually be Ellie's decision too. Right? How do we we can't, but because we never had that moment where Ellie goes, no, I consent, let's go. I love you, Joel. Love you, Ellie. And have that 10-minute cry session. We never had that 10-minute cry session of sacrifice, right? And because we were denied that, we have this feeling of just permanent disconnect between consent and, an acknowledgement, right?
Yeah.
So that slides us into question 4. Is Ellie justified in taking vengeance? We all want to say no, but we also are but we get it.
Yeah, exactly. It's
what I hated most was the whole Ellie Abby dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the whole one and the same deal that they tried to create with the two, right? And I'm just I don't know Abby. I don't care about her. Why are you trying to why force this whole 1-for-1 deal when I just wanted my Whopper and Junior Whopper meal with Joel and Ellie, you know what I mean? But thing is that the moment we saw who's the final boss that Ellie had to fight again in the first one? David. There we go. Yeah, there you go. So here's the thing, right? We saw a little bit of what Ellie had to grow into, right, in order to survive in that world, right? And we started slowly seeing her, I guess her ideals of what morals she may have left, start slowly drifting away from her
Mhm.
because of what she has to do in order to survive. And then I guess, when you take the story a couple of years later, right, you start understanding, oh, she's lost. Even though she does feel like very safe within the confines of the community that she was in, she still lost a whole lot of herself along the way. Um, and I guess that's why this whole vengeance story picked up for her, was because she was just trying to repiece everything that she dropped and tries to put that back together, especially with Joel's guitar, right? From having to, you know, bring yourself together to why she was here, to why she was there in the first place, to why she was able to survive in the first place, to why she picked up the guitar in the first place. Just trying to piece all those things together for her, was what was intended, right? Through this warmongering tear that she was on, right? And it was still wrong, which sucks. And we definitely felt that throughout the whole entire game, that this was wrong, but she thought she felt like she had to do it.
I agree with you, Venus, because I don't think Joel would have wanted Ellie to take revenge. Like we learned throughout the game, like before the events of part 2, like Joel was just trying to treat Ellie like a normal child. Like you already know, Joel didn't want Ellie to become like what Joel went through, like what he became, being that hunter, interrogating people, torturing people for information, that sort of deal. Like he wanted to treat Ellie as a normal kid so that she won't have to go through. She won't end up like Joel. Because I think Joel pretty much knew from like the end of The Last of Us, like I'm gonna die for some reason, that I killed somebody and I know I'm gonna die because of that. And I don't want my death to cause more death. It's like this, that like the cycle of violence, like this whole thing. Like Joel wanted to stop it, and unfortunately we never got that moment where Joel gets to talk to Ellie about that, and so Ellie immediately thinks, "Oh, I gotta take revenge."
I'm with that. I like that. I mean, yeah, it goes back for me both sides. Like to forgive to justify Ellie means I also need to justify Abby, and neither of them are right in this situation. But neither of them got the proper counseling for someone to tell them it's okay to let it go. This is not what your fathers would have wanted for you. But speaking of fathers, we're going to slide into the dads real quick. Questions about the dads. So I wrote Tony, but realized shortly afterwards it was Jerry. So was Dr. Jerry Anderson right in not seeking consent before attempting the surgery? And I think because whether we realize it or not, that whole conversation with Marlene is the literal pivot point, right?
Yeah.
And as a doctor, first of all, he is trained on day freaking 1 about implied consent, right? Like that is a thing you are taught, right? As a doctor, as any kind of healthcare professional, you're taught if the patient does not give you verbal or written consent, you should not be doing anything to them, right? I mean, granted, if they're now in an emergency situation, that's a little different. But this wasn't an emergency situation. They had already pulled her up. She was good. She was just chilling, right? She just needed to wake up. She was just unconscious at the time. Do we think? So my question really roots down to: was Jerry right to say, "All right, go ahead, prep her up. Let's go. We're gonna cut her up," knowing what we know?
No. I think there should have been a talk. Jerry should have talked to Joel. Jerry should have talked to Ellie, to get that situation, to tell them, so if we do this, there's a pretty much a good chance that Ellie's gonna die, and we know it sucks now because we know Ellie's answer. I was like, do it. Like she was like, just do it. Like if you have to do it, do it. And then we wouldn't have a part 2. It would pretty much stop the events that ever happened in part 2. Like we would never have this situation. But I think it's still like in a sense it's almost Jerry's fault that this whole thing happened. And you would think Marlene would also be like, hey, you need, like, Marlene would fight more, like you should talk to them instead of Marlene just giving it, okay, yeah, just do it. And then I'm gonna tell Joel, and then it's like, great, cool.
Oh my goodness! You know, after the events of what took place in Last of Us 2, just kill Ellie. Just kill Ellie. Save the world. Don't get her consent. No, I mean, the whole reason why they traveled halfway across the country was because, you know, to perform the surgery, right? So technically they gave us their consent. No, I mean, like, what you want to call it? If there was just, if Joel didn't find out about the procedures throughout the trip, right? Then yeah, I think the story would have just ended there, and then maybe the cure would have came from Ellie, and then maybe the story would have been would have just been done and said, and we would have been okay with it. Be like, okay, Naughty Dog, that was a great game. Thank you very much. Back to Uncharted.
Here's part 4.
Here's part
4. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're right. Because 1 came and then 4 came right behind it. I forgot.
Yep.
And then I was listening to the Last of Us podcasts.
Right.
Prepping for this, and I believe like it was sort of like like just hinted like Jerry would have been fine. It was a dead Ellie that appeared in Seattle. He just wanted the brain. Like he was totally like, alive or dead, I was gonna do this no matter what. Like you could have brought it. Joel could have brought a dead Ellie, and then Jerry was like, okay, fine, yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my goodness.
That would have been a different dynamic too. If like if she were already dead, then like, oh boy,
and then I was also, there was this YouTube video I saw, but like a doctor reacting to all the different injuries in The Last of Us, and he said like he wouldn't, if he was given the choice, like would he kill Ellie to save the people? He said no, I wouldn't do that. And then he went on saying like, because there's other ways to that. You can get blood, you can get plasma. In my mind, it's like there are more ways to figure out this cure instead of just killing her. You can totally take blood, you can take plasma. There's something in her body besides her brain that can give you the cure. So it's just like,
right.
We were given this choice, like we were given another choice.
Yeah. And I think God, all it took was just a couple of words, an exchange of words, and that's it. That's all it would have taken. And yeah, why couldn't there be blood drawn? You know, why couldn't there be multiple blood samples coming from Ellie drawn?
I mean, that's how we do it currently with certain blood diseases. You give a blood donation, and it helps as a form of treatment for those who have the disease. And like, there's bone marrow transplants. There are so many other life-threatening ways to do it. And that's why I'm also like, I'm not okay with Jerry doing what he did, because and I have a medical background, so my headspace goes, there's like 15 different ways we could have done this before we say let's take it out, right? And she wasn't turning either. So if she were turning, then it's a different conversation, because now she is dying, right? But she wasn't in any way or state getting ready to go rah on us. And because of that, I think like she still had her all of her mental capabilities to give consent. And I think for me, that's where I think like this is where I go, where ambition and ego took over and caused what caused it. Right. And that's why I also see why Abby is not justified, because like she heard that combo. Don't sit here and say no lies. She was eavesdropping. This chick was eavesdropping, right? She's mad. So like, because she heard that, she would have said, "Wait a minute, can we talk to Ellie really quick? And if Ellie's down, then let's go." Right? It'll take you like, let's talk to Joe, let's talk to Ellie, let's let them have their like, I love you, goodbye moment, and then go save the world. The end. End of discussion. But because they got so ambitious and thinking she was gonna die tomorrow, I'm like, she didn't die the whole way here. That was like almost a half-year journey. We went through like 3 and almost 2.5 seasons. Like, she survived a whole year not turning. So my argument immediately becomes then, if she hadn't turned yet, she wasn't going to turn right then and there on you. She wasn't a threat.
You had time.
You had time. You had hella time and hella resources to just go, like, to check out every non-invasive option first before you go in there and say, all right, now we have to biopsy or we have to take out. They could have still biopsied, and that's my headspace too. Is like, you still could have had a biopsy to confirm and taken like just a piece or two out to confirm to generate a what's that one? Not the clinical trial, because that's how we're talking, since we're talking about vaccines now. Like, there's a pre-phase trial, and there's a clinical, and then there's the DNA makeup, right? So that's where he was trying. I think he really should have started there. So he was doing like all sorts of unethical shit anyway. But like in generating a vaccine, you have to have a DNA makeup, right? Of understanding what the disease is. So the fact that they probably didn't have it, they didn't have an immunity strand. So they could have easily biopsied and started there and then gone from there and had that full conversation. Because I agree with you guys, like, there's 100 different ways they could have gone about it. And at the same time, like, I also, this is where I think this is just lazy writing, because, like, to me as a writer, I would have been like, wait, we've at least exhausted everything before we have this conversation of, do we, like, get got, right? And that's not kind of what happened here. They just went to the get got first. And I'm like, ooh, hold on. You're in a full-fledged medical hospital facility. Yeah, it's messy. A little messy, but you have everything you need to make something happen. And for them to do that wasn't necessarily like good. But at the same time, this also now presents the other half of this coin, which is, was Joel right to stop the Fireflies by any means necessary? And when we say every means necessary, we are talking about the end of part 1, which was everyone got via flamethrowers or pipes or guns or knives or however you wanted to go about it. Okay. Was Joel in the right to do that?
No. Like, I think it was a selfish moment.
It was a really selfish act.
It's a selfish act to do this to save Ellie. It's yes.
But it was also a hard call because of the medical notes that he read from the tests that were run on multiple subjects and how they all failed, right? For those of you completionists that actually do read the letters.
This kid, these kids right here.
Right, those people that actually do want to be immersed. But yeah, like, there was clear evidence that there was no certainty of a cure, and he didn't want to risk losing a whole nother life over something that's not there, right? Right. Like, what if this cure really doesn't exist and Ellie just got lucky, or or like some other shit, right? But at the same time, he did kind of rob the world of that question and left the cat in the box. And left Shudder's cat in the box, and we'll never find out, right? But yeah. I thought it was very, very interesting. And you know what? Now that I realize it, that wasn't necessarily a satisfactory ending in part 1 either.
Wow.
Right? I mean, yes, Joel and Ellie get to continue to live on with the rest of their lives, but Ellie didn't get the answer she needed to hear from Joel, and we didn't get that reconciliation from Joel that we needed to hear when he was giving Ellie the information of what happened at the hospital. You know, so I think there's a recurring theme here of disappointment. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I mean, disappointment, but then also
Nah,
dishonesty.
Right, but yes, of course, right? Because, you know, at the end of the day, both Joel and Ellie ended up being very dishonest with themselves, especially towards the end of the span of both games, right? So it was only Ellie that finally came out with herself with what was the truth for her, which was, oh, vengeance isn't right. It was just unfortunate that I had to lose everything else along the way. So yeah.
JP, one. You got anything else?
No, not really. Yeah, no, I just don't. No, I don't have anything else to say really about it. Joel shouldn't have. He just shouldn't. I've done that. He shouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, here we are teasing about using flamethrowers to murder.
I mean, I had to do it as the gamer. I had to do it. Like otherwise, I was like, well,
I thought I was gonna get a trophy. What do you want, man?
It's one of those secret. It's one of those secret trophies to
I know.
burn humans.
I was just trying to 100% the game. You know, I was fully immersed. Like the flamethrower.
Gotta get that platinum.
Get them platinum seal. Oh man, because and that's a good point. Like JP, too, you make a heck of a good point. Like, in the sense of because there was so much dishonesty, right? And because and freaking Jerry's guilty of it too. He was dishonest with everybody else. He was like, yo, we got to offer, because she's gonna be the only one that's gonna save everybody, when really, is she gonna be the only one that saves everybody? Because you didn't already run some tests that have proven that other people who have also had this condition don't. It's just a one-off, they just get lucky. Right? We can't replicate the immunity, right? And so by not being honest to Joel and to what's her face, to Marlene, by not being honest to those two, they make the calls that they make, right? Whereas if he had said, I don't know, but you know what, I think we should wait till everyone wakes up and have a conversation, so that way they know the whole story, which is there is still a chance that this could all fail. Yeah. I mean, there's always a chance it could always fail. That's the downside when you're dealing with any kind of illness in 2020. You could have all the best chemotherapy in the world, but you could still die of cancer. Right. And that's knock on wood that don't happen to nobody in our crew, but at the same time, I have to acknowledge that too, right? And so it's the same headspace here. Was Joel right to stop the Fireflies? Yes. The way he did it, not necessarily. I feel like he could have just knocked them out and done it in a non-lethal way that allowed them to live, but allowed him to take Ellie and run for the hills, right? And then just be not have to start nothing, because even Joel says it at the very end when he gets Marlene, you're just gonna come after me, right. Pow, right? And I'm like, that was gonna happen anyway, fam. And that's all of part 2 right there. You're just gonna come after me. And I hate that Joel also was really which now ties into the next question is, was Joel right to lie to Ellie? The short answer is no. But the short answer is, oh hecka no. All hex no. But at the same time, are we okay with him doing it too? Was it right for him? No, but are we okay with him doing that because of what happens later in part 2 when she does find out the truth?
No, he should have told her right away.
I think so too.
He should have told her right away. But the thing is that Joel was so invested in Ellie, right, at that point in time, and he was at that point to where he would do anything to protect her. And that's exactly what he felt like he was doing, and all the way throughout the rest of their story up until his death, right? He felt like he was protecting her the whole time. When it ended up, biting him in the ass towards the end, and now Ellie had to go pick up where Joel left everything off, right? Which was very unfortunate. And the worst part was that everything came at Ellie so hard, but she was asleep for all of that, which is rough, and this whole part 2 ran around a lie for like how many years too. So
yeah. Joel was not out. When Joel lied to her at the very end, I was just disappointed. There was a moment there was disappointment because I think he did it just to be selfish so that he can have a daughter. And
also a chance at redemption too.
Yeah, and a chance at redemption. And then even though like the way Ellie was talking to Joel, Ellie probably was like, no, something happened. Something happened when I was asleep. I know something happened, but if then like tell me everything you said was true, then I'll believe it. And then Joel says like, yeah, it's true. Like at that moment, I think Ellie was trying to get the Joel to tell the truth. And probably Ellie would have been like, okay, it would have been fine because then Joel would finally confess what was going on. I think that if that happened, I think Ellie would have been fine. Wouldn't react as bad as what we saw in part 2.
Yeah.
Like at that moment, he's like, okay, you're telling me the truth. I understand. I'm gonna take some time, but I'll get over it. Instead, we get the whole like Ellie and Joel have been talking for years. Because they was later revealed like Joel like is like, well, that's it. I don't want to be part of your life anymore, sort of deal. So,
yep.
I'm with that too. But here's the thing, too, it's only a half lie. Because remember what he said in the car? It was like, they had a couple other people try, and nothing came of it. There was no cure. So he's only really telling a half lie because JP2's right. If you go through the letters, they see tons of failures prior. So there was no hope. There was no 100% foolproof way that Ellie was going to be the cure. Right. Because there had already had a bunch of people come through who might have been the cure and weren't. Right. And so I think if he had been, I agree, if he had been properly transparent and been like, sis or kid, the data was too inconclusive. I wasn't willing to take that chance for you. I made it. I handled it. Right. Now you can be mad at me for the rest of your life if you want to be, but I did what I had to do. Right. Yeah. And I'm sorry. And I'm sorry. Well, I don't think he was sorry because even at the
Did we lose her?
I'm like, no, this is not the point because this is how the whole cycle began in the first place, right? Like, if I had been honest about it and been real, if people had been honest from the get-go and not trying to hide behind smoke and mirrors, the story, well, A, we probably wouldn't have had a part 2. But then B, at the same time, I think the situation would have been, the storytelling would have been better in the sense of okay, it's still going to be a sad ending, but it's going to be a proper sad ending versus the ending we got it in 2, which is not as proper as we really wanted it to be, I think. And then, the fact that he maintained that lie for the next few years too, right? As she begins, and remember in some of the flashbacks, she does begin to start making these questions, and she starts bucking authority, as I call it, where she's like, so are we really serious about what happened to me was what happened? And then every opportunity she had Joel had that opportunity to tell the truth and be like, kid, I got to tell you something, and it's okay if you hate me for the rest of my life, but here's what happened, if he can do it for Tom, that's just what frustrates me. He told Tommy the whole truth, right? Whole truth and nothing but it. But then he couldn't tell the one person whose truth that affected, right? And that's a huge, And yes, that's for the sake of love. He came at it from an angle of love, but does lying, but lying doesn't, even if it is an act of love, isn't justifiable, right? Like, even our church teaches that lying for the sake of love isn't a good thing. You know, true love is telling the truth, even if it hurts.
Yeah.
You know. Let's slide in. I want to touch, we're kind of pushing a little longer than I planned, but I want to at least touch in a little bit about the two overarching themes of this entire combo, which was first the cycle of violence and was it justified, which we've definitely gone over multiple times. But the second piece, which is a play on memento mori. For the podcast who don't know, memento mori is Latin for remember your death. And we as Catholics are called to always remember that this life that we live is temporary, right? And that, like, you know, that we have to remember that because our lives on earth are temporary, we should always be striving and acting and behaving in a way that gets us to the gate, aka heaven, right? And so my first question for that whole memento mori, remembering your death piece, is, in a world full of death, how does memento mori play out in The Last of Us? You know, where do you see it in the cultures of both games?
I mean, remember your death. It's like it's hard.
I feel like that gets thrown out the window in a post-apocalyptic world, right? Because okay, with what Joel had to do in order to I guess apply for himself, it was just literally for him, right? Just to make sure that he's good for himself and that he makes all these connections to where he's protected within whatever safe zone that he was at. And that was solely it, right? Didn't matter who he killed, what he had to do to get to it. He just had to make sure that he himself was going to be okay for the rest of his life during this period. And then with Ellie, you know, she didn't live in a world before it all turned, right? She was just always there. So thing is that you could say that she always had this feeling of, you know, of an inevitable death, whether it was from a clicker or from another human being or from natural causes, right? So I feel like she threw that out the window as well, because her whole life is just based off of survival at that point. But yeah, I guess the only moral, whatever was taught from Joel throughout Ellie's life were the only morals that she was able to attain, I guess, in a sense, right? And if she were to look at her past and what she's done in her life, I don't think she would have been happy about it just as much as Joel wasn't happy as about how his life turned out to be either, right? So I don't know. I mean, it's kind of hard to call for a memento mori when you're busy, you know, killing people that are out to kill you, or going through a daily job of killing clickers just to make sure everyone else is safe and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to have memento mori in this world when the morality is kind of thrown out the window. Like, there is a change, there is something, like, we can't, like, it's hard to strive to enter the gates of heaven when you're in a world where everyone and anything is out to kill you. When you are not safe, the moment you go outside that door, you are not safe. Something out there could potentially kill you today. And like it's there, like that safety that we have, then yeah, we can strive to be we can strive to be good, to be able to follow the teachings and things like that. But in a world where when your neighbor could be the one who totally like you can totally take you out, like we know, like in the Last of Us, like when the first time we see Joel during the outbreak, or like after the outbreak, it's a dog eat dog world. Like everyone, like you can't really trust anybody. Like the only person who really trusts is Tess. And even then, like they were both doing pretty shady stuff and things. So, like no one that, like the law, the quote unquote law, had to set these rules so that no one could do anything wrong. And the moment you're infected, you're dead. Like kill you on sight, that sort of deal. So like it's in the world, like there's no food, so you gotta steal, you gotta do all these things. So yeah, like it's to be able to remember your death and be able to like have your like preserve your soul so you can enter the gate. It's hard in this world.
That's true. I'm with you guys on that. Like I see the hardness of it, and then at the same time I also see some of the like the constant reminder of it, because you guys just both mentioned it. Anything could kill me, right? Like it could be infected, it could be a disease, it could be the freaking flu, because there's no flu vaccines anymore. Like it could be, starvation that could get me, and like it could be another human being that gets me, right? In that same headspace and vein, like that's where I think Memento Mori shows as a constant reminder, right? Like how many of us were upset when Jesse got? Like for real, like we weren't planning that. That's not a moment we were all planning for. None of us were ready for that.
It came out of nowhere.
It literally came out of nowhere. He went through the door, bow. We were like, ah! Like I couldn't, and I didn't even have time to process it because like the rest of the game was happening. But like even after that, I was like, yo, that's a huge, like that was how quick death shows up, right? Like, and it comes in all different ways. But let's also be real, in 2020, like, how is that not applicable today? My neighbor could still get me if he wanted to, right? Like my homie, like, the law could still abuse me, my rights, and get me got, right? Like there's so many, like there's a pandemic. Like I think like we already have a pandemic in the middle of our gaming season. Like there's so many things that could still get me today, just as much as it could be in a post-apocalyptic society like The Last of Us. And so it's kind of, for me, more, yeah, it's hard to maintain, but it should be always but it's a thing that's always in the back of my head, that nothing is permanent, right? And that no matter what, that my actions, whatever they look like, have consequences, right? So that being said, and we already kind of answered this a little bit, but I'd like to explore it a little deeper of, do y'all really think Joel knew he was going to get got when he did what he did with the Fireflies?
Oh, yeah.
And he acknowledged that, and in doing so, acknowledging Memento Mori in the same headspace. Like, I'm going to remember what I've just done because it's probably going to be the reason I get got.
Well, maybe that was because he was acting the way he was acting around Ellie, right? Is to show himself in that sense of light despite of what he's done. Right, and throughout the whole part, part 2, you keep on hearing from Tommy about how much shit that they've done, right? Like, and then Ellie would be shocked and blah blah blah, and then like she would just tell herself, no, like that's just Joel being Joel. He just did what he had to do in order to like protect me, blah blah blah, right? That kind of stuff, Ellie kept on justifying Joel's actions, because of the image he was trying to portray towards her. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think, JP?
I mean, yeah, definitely. Joel knew that day was coming. I mean, when he was when he was about to die, like he said, like, why don't you say whatever, like, why don't you say whatever speech you've got rehearsed? Like he knows it's gonna happen. Like, it's like, like he knew, like, I'm gonna die by someone eventually, and like it's probably gonna be someone that I affected somehow in some sort of time. Like, so yeah, like Joel knew immediately. Like, yep. I think the moment he said Joel Miller, it's like, okay, no, this person knows me. They know me.
Yeah.
And everyone looks at him awkward, and you're like, oh, shit.
Yeah, it's like, okay, people know my less.
And then they started nodding, and then Tommy was like, why do I get the feeling you guys know us?
Because we do. Click, click. I was like, oh, no. Oh, no, it's going down. It's going down right now.
Yeah, and then half of his, more than half of his knee was shot off, and you're like, oh, he dead, dude. He dead.
But it happens so fast, and maybe that's like a whole conversation. And I mean, that's also part of like, and maybe that is it too. Like, I think in his memento mori moment, where he, like, for me, the memento mori moment happened when he gets Marlene, and he says, "Y'all just gonna come for me." Bow, right? And I was like, and you just acknowledge that they're going to come for you, and that you accept that. And not only do you accept that, you're willing to do it again because you loved Ellie more, and you'd rather have that time with her more than the rest of whatever this is, right? And I think it would be foolish of us all to not stop and go, no, he knew it was coming. Did he anticipate it to come the way it came? Maybe not. But at the same time, I think that headspace, and maybe that is the way of the world works, just like you guys were mentioning earlier. Like, this is the way of the world, right? Like, that The Last of Us is. Like, death is a constant. It's not even a thing. It's not like here where it's eventual. It's a constant reminder, right?
Yeah.
That we have to be ready for in the event I don't get home. I don't go home, right? And I feel like he always knew, and in his acknowledgement of him knowing, he said, I take it because I'd rather spend whatever time I get with Ellie is borrowed. And I think that also justifies why he lies to Ellie, because he knows that all this time I've got right now is 100% borrowed.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually I'm going to have to give this time back via a 9-iron. Via a 9-iron and a blown off shotgun knee.
So, man. Yeah. What a way to go. What a way to go.
Right. And that's actually, like, that's where my, like, I'm actually going to stop talking about those two. I was going to go deeper, but now my brain's like, yeah, we can stop here. Because I do actually want to stop and actually talk about Joel's death. Because I think that's what, like, we've been dancing it the whole day, and I'm like, okay, hold on. But let's actually talk about it now. Like, yeah, it happened, and we're all not happy about it, obviously. But, like, do we approve of how it went as a group? Like, were we okay with the fact that, we acknowledge, or, like, that this was going to happen one day, and that we just got witnessed? We were witnesses to the inevitable.
I mean, I hoped, like, going to the game, I was like, okay, Joel's more likely going to die in this game, and of course I would hope for a sacrifice, like something bad's happening and Joel dies because he's trying to save some other people, like he's trying to save more people, like he gets the heroic death.
Yeah.
But was he really a hero though?
No, he was not.
In his way, yes. In, like, what we think about it, probably not.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I think we wanted Joel, like, if Joel was gonna die, we wanted Joel to die in a way that wasn't as horrible as this, the way we got it, the way which to be perfectly honest, might have been a way Joel might have tortured somebody. We don't know.
Yes.
This could have been totally a way, because we know sort of the whole point on the map. And then at the very end, like, asking where Ellie is, like, oh, I have time for this, shoot him twice in the chest. And then, like, ask him, like, we know Joel is brutal. So it's just like maybe like this is something Joel might have done to someone. Shotgun to the knee probably was in the mindset of Joel at some point in time, and things like that. We know, like, so it's just like, is it a what?
He did stab a dude in the knee in part 1. He did.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then choke him out. So it's just like
I mean, he did flamethrower 2 nurses and shot a doctor.
he didn't. He didn't. I did. That was me. I did that. That was my decision.
I chose a pipe and a gun and a 9mm. That's how I chose, pipe and a 9mm. But I mean, what do you think, JP2? What do you think?
Abby sucks ass. I hate her so much. She is the worst character ever. Just kidding.
Feed the fandom that's unhappy, JP2.
Oh, my
Feed
goodness.
them.
I think, okay, so again, timing was terrible. And yes, Joel was buying on borrowed time, but can he at least borrow a little bit more time towards the end of the game? Come on now.
Well, he totally stole time at the end of the game. Let's be
Well,
fair, though,
that's
too.
true,
That whole
that's
flashback is a
He was
steal
at
of
the
time.
very end.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Literal
for sure.
end.
For sure.
Even though
And
technically
in
that
the
was
credits.
that was the little beginning.
Right.
Oh my gosh, you're so right. I just realized that. That was the literal beginning of the
That's the-
entire story.
Mm-hmm. That's the beginning
Yeah.
That
of
whole
part 2.
last conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So destroyed.
That took place right after the dance. So like, yeah, that's like beginning of the game.
Yeah.
That all
And
should have
then-
been the end.
Yep. Yep. And then, I mean, thing is that like, it seemed like it was a shocking, right? But also a very fitting death for Joel, because with living a brutal life comes a very brutal death, coming back at you, especially with the hundreds of people that you've killed along the way.
Mhm.
And with the world being so small nowadays, right, gets a little bit easier to track here and there, especially with the warpath that you set yourself trying to get to safety.
True.
So yeah, I mean, all I can say is that for Joel, sorry, bro, it'd be like that sometimes, dude. Like, you just murder a whole community, and one of them finally might get you. If it's not a clicker, it might be some doctor's daughter, I guess, in this case. So, and she might have a 9-iron with a sawed-off shotgun ready for you. So.
And a crew just ready to hold her down. I'm like,
Oh,
we
yeah.
hold you down? Like,
Yeah.
put a tourniquet on his knee? What? What do you mean
Yeah.
tourniquet?
Sickly.
A crew of former Fireflies knew exactly what you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely knew what you did like 5 summers ago, fam. Like, it's wild. But like, all right, like, so last question, and it's actually not on the list.
Okay.
What do we want? How, since we're still in Memento Mori vein, how would we like to see Ellie die? Because she didn't die, mind you, in this episode. But if there were to be a part 3, how would we like her to go out?
Just do the procedure. Just do the procedure. Just get it over with. I'm over
Yeah.
the story already. Please, like. I'm just kidding. Go ahead, JP. Go ahead.
No, I hope she like if we got the ending that I think like even Ellie wants is like she sacrifices her life for the cure. I think that's what she wants. But given the situation and what's going on now, I don't think there's a chance that will ever happen unless the whole Abby and Lev thing with the remaining Fireflies, unless that's the thing. If we learn about them and like, oh yeah, we need the cure, and then Abby's like, oh, I know someone who has the cure. Then she has to go back, fight her way back to Ellie, find Ellie. But I mean I think that's the ending I think Ellie wants, and I kind of want okay, that way it brings some resemblance of hope in this world. Like, okay, the cure can now be found. Like, we now have good evidence that a cure can be created.
Yeah.
But in my mind, I feel like Abby's just gonna die of old age. Like Ellie is gonna die of old age, or like it will be something, because I think she might just like shack up and go like in the middle of the forest and just live her life. I think that's what's gonna happen. Even though the one thing she feared in the first game was being alone.
She got it at the end, and
Yeah,
that's so ugly.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I feel hollow in the end. Is she got exactly what she feared,
Mm-hmm.
and how many people in our lives do we see that actually happen to? That they get exactly what they feared, and that's it. And you're like, ugh.
Yeah.
And she walked out into that beautiful sunset. I'm like, no, wait, no. That's how I felt. I was like, no. She's not walking into the sunset. No, she's not. No.
No.
It could have ended on the beach. With
Yeah, you could have stopped right there.
Abby and Lev going away. That beach sequence. That entire time, I just felt sorry. I just felt sad for her. Like that's just yeah. That popped in my head. Like she didn't ever wanted to be alone. And
There she was.
There she was. She is now alone.
And it got even worse when she left the guitar and you try to play it again, and you're like, "Oh yeah, wait, I'm missing 2 fingers. I can't play it anymore."
And you can't play. You can't play the song Joel taught you.
Yep. Is that gonna be our outro song for this?
I'm tempted. It's not, I don't know if I can get the rights to do it for this episode, but something similar to it. And I mean, like, and that's the thing. Like, and it circles us all the way back to the beginning of like the end. Does the end always justify the means? And the answer usually is no, not always, right? Yeah. And that sometimes it takes us embracing what we actually fear for us to realize and learn that this is what it is. Right. It is what it is, right? Again, that's why I feel so hollow about the whole story, even though I love the whole story. And I could unpack it even further. And I can unpack it in a mental health headspace, because and I wrote my bachelor's thesis on this, is that, like, The Last of Us is a complete explanation of trauma. Both series, both parts and 1 and 2 is it's like, if you want to understand what trauma looks like, how it manifests, how it lingers, how to cope with it, how to live with it, what not to do, right. And what the consequences of some of it can be, both good and bad, play right. The Last of Us parts 1 and 2. And that's why nobody likes it, because we all hate trauma. Trauma sucks. And but at the same time, it's that trauma that makes the game what it is, right? And it's that trauma that makes the game. It's what makes the game as controversial as we are about it and how we feel about it all. Like, not just the 3 of us, but like the whole breadth of the fan base. It's what makes that game so great too. Is that because then we have to wrestle with that in ourselves. And true, real, like, good stories, regardless of medium, always make us have to stop and look at ourselves.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if we were Ellie, if we were Abby, would we be okay with these things? If we were Joel, would we be justified on borrowed time? Could we live on borrowed time like that?
Mm-hmm.
And while all our answers are going to be different, that's the point. And that's why I always got a little frustrated with everyone getting all like, and all anti-negative about The Last of Us, because they don't see that part. Mm-hmm. Of the game. Yeah. Like, they're not seeing the Memento Mori piece. They're not seeing the social. Everyone thinks it's like some big SJW episode story. I'm like, no, this is the world. This is a mirror image of the world. It just looks grittier. But if you're looking around, if you really stopped and look around, this is what's happening in real life Portland. IRL Portland, IRL, like, injustices happening. Instead of a 9-iron, it's a knee to your neck.
Yeah.
Right? Like, where do we as a society need to stop and look at ourselves and go, instead of just saying, oh, this is a terrible game, go, why is it terrible to me? It can't just be the shitty story, because the story's not actually that shitty. You just didn't really think about it.
Yep. Or you read.
I don't want to think about it.
Or you read the leak.
I don't want to think about it. I don't want to think about it. I'm just kidding.
But JP,
No,
but
no,
or
no.
that too. That too,
Yeah.
JP. You're right.
No,
Both JP's right.
there's a lot of people that are in denial with what they feel like they should view the story as, but in reality, like both endings are very hollow. It was
Nope.
just like they just give you that sense of like, oh, right, like oh, Joel lied to Ellie. This isn't what I was expecting. And then for Ellie and Last of Us Part 2, because like, oh, Ellie just lost everything. This isn't what I was like. It's very hollow endings, right? So I guess now we see the coy that Naughty Dog is going for for the Last of Us series right now, and hopefully I'm more than prepared for the third one. But if they just kill Ellie right off the bat and we just go into Abby and Lev, I'm just gonna go. All right, well, I'm gonna have to play the person I hate most again. But no, I totally understand what they were going for. It's just yeah. It's just why. I just want to know why. That's it. Just give it to me straight, Naughty Dog. That's literally it. And then I'll accept it. That's
Right.
fine.
Right.
But if the story just dies like how Joel died in the beginning of the game, I'm just gonna cry. That's it. But yeah, I'm gonna feel betrayed. That's just me. But yeah.
I definitely had that moment though too. I was like, hold on, wait. and then like, oh, let's just get on to the next section. No. We have to let this breathe now. You didn't just drop like the most epic traumatic moment in the entire series.
Yeah.
And now we're going to like talk about Ellie ain't eating? Hold on. No.
Yeah.
I need a funeral. I need fire pyres. I need flowers everywhere.
Man.
I need people crying and falling out. We need none of that.
Nope.
Ooh.
No.
Ooh, Naughty Dog. Come on. How you gonna do me like that?
we just got a grave and then Ellie and Dina talking for a little bit and then they leave.
Ooh, that grave picture though. Like, so I took like 1,000 like Photoshop like screen photos from. I was like, I want all the screenshots. This is all the feelings. And I took him in every angle, like a really bad like photographer, but like it's just. I just was like, yeah, this is like, this is the moment, fam, the moment.
Yeah.
And so, any last notes or thoughts or feelings about The Last of Us you want to share besides Abby sucks? And we all are in consensus that she still sucks, even though I understand her suckage.
Right. What are we?
Fun game. It was a fun game. I'm playing. I told Venus earlier. I'm playing permadeath mode right now. So
Man.
I'm going through that. So it's still The Last of Us is still a story that I am totally fine going back to. Like I bought the PS3 version. I bought the remake of it too, and stuff. Like I'm willing to go back and experiencing all these emotions again.
Right.
Same. What do you think of JP2?
Where do we go from here? You know, I just don't know. It definitely got me thinking about, you know, the possible future for this game, for what could happen outside of what I thought should have happened, right? You know, because what drew me into the Last of Us series was more Joel and Ellie, right? More this whole like buddy love type of feeling within a post-apocalyptic world. I wanted more jokes. I wanted more instances between Joel and Ellie. I wanted that father-daughter relationship to grow, but seeing this story more as a tragedy than anything. I'm just more than excited to see what's gonna happen for the end if they decide to go for 3, right? Because originally it was supposed to be only just one Last of Us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Then-
they never confirmed the second one, and then all of a sudden it came out of nowhere.
Yeah, and I felt like that project was pre-planned, even though they did say they only wanted one, right? But I know Naughty Dog was going to be asked by Sony for more, so yeah, it was just inevitable for them. So that's why so maybe that's why they tried making such a bad game. Oh man, oh imagine.
Imagine, especially after like Uncharted 4 and 3
Oh,
and
yeah.
like what's the other one they're doing right now? Like, and all these other amazing Naughty Dog games that they have, and then all of a sudden you come up short with like the second greatest game narrative story. Here's my headspace on this.
Mhm.
Go with me if y'all want to think about it like this, y'all. What if this was our last the Last Jedi episode? And that therefore there is going to be a way better version of the Rise of Skywalker. Way better, because Rise of Skywalker is kind of bad. I'm sorry. It looked great.
That's another discussion.
Yeah, like what if this is the or better trilogy of the Star Wars analogy here? Like, what if this was the Empire Strikes Back, and then we go into a Return of the Jedi style, like part 3. Because that's how I'd like to see it. I'd like to see it more in like that vein
A
of
redemption story.
a redemption story. Yes, I would like to see a redemption story, and it could still be sad and tragic. I could still be crying at the end like I did the second part, but like at the same time, it'd be that like she found the proper purpose for her life after the original purpose was changed and taken away.
That it makes so much more sense. But with the direction that Naughty Dog took with this game, I'm just more than prepared for Ellie to make every single wrong decision along the way for the last game, and and just completely lose herself, and then just her dying at the end. So
I'd be great to see her turn. I would love to see that moment, and and then like someone have to finish it. But like that's actually my ideal death. Like if she doesn't find the cure, if she doesn't become the cure, that she turns. And becomes the villain. She becomes the true villain, and then someone has to finish her, and therefore end the whole cycle as a whole. Because sometimes the cycle doesn't end until until all parties in it are gone. Right, and so it's like, it's just one of those, Jesus, places and spaces. So cue guitar music as we enter into the exit of this episode.
Your eyes in the morning sun.
We wish it were Bee Gees. We wish it were.
I was so shocked when Joel did that bit. I was like, oh, yo, Joel gets down.
Yo, he's a heck of a good. Yo, we could talk about that whole guitar section. Like, I'm really sad that we didn't do more guitar moments in this whole game. Like.
The moment when Ellie what's the song that Ellie sings for Dina?
Was it?
Take on Me.
Take on Me.
Take on Me. Oh yeah.
I was just like, whoa, where's this going? But I was like, okay, we'll go for it. We'll go for it.
It's hecka random, but I like this brevity moment. Bring it. It was a nice break.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting Take on Me as the song, but
no one was. That was fire.
Yeah, she did a great job too. I was like, So JPs and gentlemen, I thank you guys very much for coming on. This has been The Last of Us, parts however many more they're going to be, hopefully. And I mean, with the show coming out, I'm curious to see how they'll integrate part 2 into the show.
Oh yes,
the HBO show that we're getting.
See, if we just had the show first that led up to part 2, I would have been so much more happier with that. So,
that's a good point.
It's gonna be weird now that we know
what happened.
We know that Joel's gonna die.
Yeah.
Will they pick it up at The Last of Us, or will it be like Is it in between 1 and 2? What's gonna happen?
Who knows?
I wonder if they'll do both. I wonder if they'll do, if they don't make a part 3, that's what they'll tell part 3. So you'll get the in between, and then you'll get the part 3 right there in the show, and that's the end. And I'd be like, ooh. And then I'd still want it as a DLC afterwards because I'm a gamer and I'm spoiled and I want those things.
Yeah.
So, well, gentlemen, I thank you guys so much. I appreciate you guys sitting here and chatting with me for so long. It's a tradition here at T&E that one of the guests leads a closing prayer for just because we're cool, we're Catholic like that. And y'all want to Rochambeau for it? Just want to no. Don't be shy. It can be bad. It's fine. I say bad press all the time on this podcast. It's okay.
Do you want to do it, JP too?
No, because I'm just gonna ask God why Naughty Dog made such a crappy, and I'm just kidding. I'd be too biased.
That's a good one.
Oh, man.
Well, JP1, it looks like it's fallen to
Me?
you.
All right.
Yes,
it's me.
sir. All right.
Let's begin in all things in the name of the Father, and Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you, God, for this opportunity for us today as we discuss this game and all of its faults and all of its strengths. May you give us the knowledge that from what we have learned to live a better moral life, that we may remember our death, our memento mori, and that our life may we be able to live the life that you want us to live and to be able to spread your message throughout the world. And to this we pray. Amen.
Amen. In the name of the Father, and
And Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
What y'all doing? Feel free. This is now the shout out sections. So JP1, what do you do? What you be hanging out? Oh, okay. Got a video set up for me. Dang, bro.
Yeah, totally, dude.
Yeah, you got that Twitch streamer JP2 over there.
Yeah, totally.
Hey.
What do? I nothing. I don't know.
You got any podcasts you want to shout out?
You can. JP, both of the JPs, you can hear us on Truly Universal. We're on that podcast and with the Urban Picks, where we talk about more. We talk about a lot of things in a different universe.
What it's like to be a Catholic within another universe.
Yes. Like we recently just talked about Hamilton. JP's been in a couple too.
I'm trying to do Final Fantasy VII, man.
Oh no, that's gonna be in its.
That's a 3-parter.
That's a 4-parter. It's 4 episodes.
So
it's a 10-parter, dude.
I don't know if I'm allowed to say this. We can cut it out if we don't. But next week we're going to be talking about the Umbrella Academy.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet.
We're going to be talking about the Umbrella Academy. So how is that going to be like? So you can follow me social media. I'm Jiro_Moriarty, JIRO_MORIARTY. Yeah, I spelled it right. Every time I say it, I was like, I have to figure that out. But yeah.
All right. For me, shout out to Urban Pig, shout out to Truly Universal. If you wish to follow me on a very vulgar social media, I am not family friendly, guys. I am sorry. I'm not apologetic about it, but it's on Instagram, Twitter at JP Berganza. If you wish to see my Twitch live, it's twitch.tv/JP Berganza. Also, shout outs to the streaming community that I'm a part of, the Ville fam. Oh my goodness, and I actually got an offline follow as we're speaking right now. I don't know.
I'm surprised we even can see it.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, my OBS is linked as my webcam.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you just saw that. Whoops, that's me. That's me in my channel.
Lady Ophelia Escapes. Oh yeah, I gotta do this real quick. Lady Ophelia Escapes, thank you very much for the follow. Much appreciated. Welcome to the studio. How you doing tonight? How's your quarantine? No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, I'm over it. Yeah, it's definitely not family friendly. So for those of you guys that
I
want
may
to
be
protect your ears, what's up?
I may be streaming in the near future. We'll see.
Oh,
Ooh,
yeah. What
okay.
about- yeah.
Let us know,
I
fam.
might be doing it. Just check out my socials. I mean, that's my thing on Twitch.
Yes.
I've now might be doing D&D on Twitch. We'll see.
Yeah, Matt, wait, you're not doing it with the Avenged Nerds? I thought you were doing it with
I
the
am.
Avenged
Well, yeah,
Nerds.
I do it with
Yes.
the Average Nerds podcast, but
Okay.
I might be doing my own thing. We'll see.
Hey,
That's
let
it.
us know,
Sick,
man. Let
sick,
us
sick.
know, so we'll link you
There
up
you
because
go.
we are a big stream. We're also a big streaming community, fams of the streaming communities. Ate
Right.
Lynn, not so much, more me,
Right.
but
Right.
she thinks it's cool. She's like, yeah, I'm gonna get to that when I retire. That's her
Mhm.
code. And she's like, I'll get to that when I retire. But yeah,
Right.
so thank you guys so much again for coming, and fam, thanks for listening. And until next time, wash your hands, wear your masks, and know that God loves you. Amen.
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 All right, bye.
Peace.
Peace. This has been another episode of the Nerdy Epistles. If you like what you are hearing, please give us a like or follow wherever you get your podcasts. Show notes are available on our website at thenerdyepistles.com and on our social media outlets. If you want to be a part of the Starship community, sign up by following us on Facebook or Instagram, also affectionately titled The Nerdy Epistles. Questions or feedback can also be left there as well. Thank you again for listening. Peace be with you all, and God bless.